Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to see about the ligaments of the shoulder joint. This video is a 3D depiction of ligaments of shoulder joint. So before looking into the ligaments, let us see about the superficial structures, that is the bursae related with the shoulder joint. So now I am going to show you a bursa which is called as subdeltoid bursa. This is the subdeltoid bursa. So it covers almost the superior portion of the shoulder joint, and it is closely related with the subacromial bursa. You can see why is it named so, because it lies under the deltoid muscle and thus it is called as subdeltoid bursa. And the subacromial because it lies under the acromion process. This is the acromion process of the scapula, and it lies under the acromion process, and thus it is called as subacromial bursa. So these two are interconnected. So now I am going to remove those two bursae. So the another important thing I would like to mention is that what is the importance of subacromial and subdeltoid bursa? So they are continuous with each other, both the subacromial and the subdeltoid bursa. So together they are called as subacromial bursa. But what is their clinical importance? See, this is the tendon of supraspinatus muscle. So the supraspinatus muscle arises from the supraspinatus fossa of the scapula. So it forms the rotator cuff of the shoulder joint along with infraspinatus, subscapularis, supraspinatus, and teres minor. So in what way these bursae help the shoulder joint for smooth movement? I'm showing the superior view. See, this is the tendon of supraspinatus muscle, and this is the subacromial bursa, and this is the subdeltoid bursa. So together they are called that subacromial and subdeltoid muscle together they are commonly called as subacromial bursa. So the tendon of supraspinatus lies under the subacromial bursa and subdeltoid bursa. Now I am removing it. You can easily notice that. So see, you can see the tendon of supraspinatus muscle, and it is getting inserted into the humerus, right? So in what way they help? These bursae, that is the subacromial and subdeltoid bursa, they just separate the supraspinatus tendon of supraspinatus muscle from the acromion process of the scapula, and also they separate the supraspinatus tendon of supraspinatus from the coracoacromial ligament, right? So in that way they help in the smooth motion of the shoulder joint. So if in case the bursae gets degenerated, what happens? So the that acromion process will be keep on sliding over the tendon of the supraspinatus muscle, and thus it causes the inflammation of the tendon of supraspinatus muscle. So this is the major clinical importance of the bursae, that is subdeltoid and subacromial bursa. So now I am going to remove both the bursae. So the next bursae is subtendinous bursa. So this is the subtendinous bursa of subscapularis. Why so? This is the tendon of subscapularis muscle. The subscapularis muscle arises from the subscapular fossa of the scapula, that is from the costal surface of the scapula, and it gets inserted into the lesser tubercle of the humerus. So what happens? This bursae lies within the tendon of the subscapularis muscle, and that's what it is called as subtendinous bursa of subscapularis, under the tendon of subscapularis muscle, and that's what it is called as subtendinous. I am removing that bursa also. So the next bursae is subcoracoid bursae. Subcoracoid bursa. Why is it named so? I'll mark and show you the coracoid process. This is the coracoid process of the scapula, right? So it lies within the coracoid process, under the coracoid process. This bursa lies under the coracoid process, and hence the name subcoracoid bursa. You can see the location. So from the superior view, so you can see this is the coracoid process of the scapula. So this bursa lies under the coracoid process. This is the anterior view. So now I'm going to remove this bursa also. So the next bursa I'm going to show you is the coracoclavicular bursa. Why is it named so? This is the clavicular bone, and this is the coracoid process of the scapula. This one, coracoid process of the scapula. This bursa lies between the two bones. That is lies between the clavicle bone and the coracoid process of the scapula, and thus it is called as coracoclavicular bursa. So now I am removing that bursa also. All that is left out is the ligaments of the shoulder joint and also some ligaments between the clavicle and the scapula. So okay, let us first see about the coracoacromial ligament. So see, I am showing the lateral view. You can see the coracoacromial ligament. So it extends from the acromion process of the scapula to the coracoid process of the scapula. So another interesting thing is this acromion process, this coracoacromial ligament and this coracoid process, they together form the acromial arch. They in turn support the shoulder joint. So they ensure the stability of the shoulder joint. So this forms the coracoacromial arch. This coracoid process, acromion process, this is the coracoacromial ligament and this is the coracoid process. These three together form the coracoacromial arch. They in turn stabilize the shoulder joint. So now I am going to remove the coracoacromial ligament. So okay, let me remove the tendon of subscapularis muscle and also the tendon of supraspinatus muscle and also the tendon of infraspinatus muscle. These all form the rotator cuff. They also in turn provide the stability to the shoulder joint. So since we are looking into the ligaments, I am removing all those things. So the next one is transverse humeral ligament. So what is the speciality of this ligament? It just bridges the bicipital groove or the intertubercular sulcus, where the tendon of the biceps brachii passes through. So you can see the tendon of the biceps brachii here. So this tendon passes through the bicipital groove or the intertubercular sulcus. So what this ligament does is it just bridges the bicipital groove, covering the tendon of biceps brachii and also the synovial sheath that in turn covers the tendon of the biceps brachii. So now I'm going to remove that ligament also. So inside that you can see the synovial sheath. So This is just an extension of the synovial sheath covering the joint capsule. This intertubercular tendon sheath, it is just the extension of the synovial sheath which covers the joint capsule. So I'm removing that also. Inside that you can see the tendon of the biceps brachii. So the next ligament we are going to see is coracohumeral ligament. So see, it is attached to the coracoid process of the scapula and also to the humerus. Coracohumeral ligament. You can see that this ligament extends from the root of the coracoid process. So for easy viewing, I'm going to remove the clavicle and also this acromioclavicular ligament. So now you can see that it arises from the, or it extends from the root of the coracoid process to that of the humerus, opposite to the greater tubercle. You can see this is the greater tubercle and this is the lesser tubercle, and in between that it is the bicipital groove or intertubercular sulcus where the tendon of the biceps brachii passes through. So now I am going to remove that ligament also. So in this video we are not going to see about the acromioclavicular ligament or coracoclavicular ligament, because we are just pointing out towards the ligaments of the shoulder joint. The next one is the glenohumeral ligaments. This is the superior glenohumeral ligament. So these glenohumeral ligaments are mainly useful for providing strength to the joint capsule in the anterior portion. So these three bands of the glenohumeral ligaments, they provide the stability to the joint capsule in the anterior portion. See, this is the superior glenohumeral ligament, this is the middle glenohumeral ligament, and this is the inferior glenohumeral ligament. You can see that it extends from the humerus to that of the glenoid cavity. This is the superior view. You can see that it extends from the humerus to that of the glenoid cavity. That is, it extends beyond the supraglenoid tubercle. So you can see some space between larger gap between the superior glenohumeral ligament and the middle glenohumeral ligament. This space is called a foramen of Weitbridge. So this is a very weak area. I'll show that in a pointer. See, this is the very weak area, and because it is a gap between the superior glenohumeral ligament and the middle glenohumeral ligament. See, this is the superior glenohumeral and this is the middle glenohumeral. There is a gap between the superior glenohumeral ligaments and middle glenohumeral ligament, and that portion is called as, this portion is called as foramen of Weitbridge. This is a very weak area, and this is the common site for the anterior dislocation of the shoulder joint. So now I am going to remove the all glenohumeral ligaments. Now this is the joint capsule. So it extends from the humerus and it gets attached to the scapula beyond the supraglenoid tubercle, the superior portion, and also it covers almost all the surfaces of the glenoidal labrum. You can see how it is attached. You can see the joint capsule. This is the superior view. This is the anterior view. This is the inferior view. This is the posterior view. So medially it is attached beyond the supraglenoid tubercle, and laterally it is attached to the humerus, that is to the anatomical neck of the humerus, and extends till the surgical neck of the humerus. You can see here, surgical neck of the humerus. So now I'm going to remove the joint capsule. Now you can see the glenoidal labrum, how it deepens the glenoidal cavity. So by deepening the glenoidal cavity, it provides additional stability to the shoulder joint. Now I am going to remove the glenoidal labrum. So now you can see the articular surfaces, that is the glenoidal cavity of the scapula and the head of the humerus. So another important thing I would like to share with you. So the axillary nerve is closely related with the shoulder joint. So I will show. For that I am removing all the muscles. So I am removing the subscapularis muscle also. So here you can see the axillary nerve. So see how it is closely related with the shoulder joint. I am removing all other nerves other than the axillary nerve. See, from the posterior cord, the axillary nerve arises, and on the inferior aspect of the shoulder joint, the axillary nerve is closely related. I am removing all other nerves and muscles. So now you can clearly see that how it is closely related. So whenever the shoulder is dislocated, shoulder joint is dislocated, so it affects the axillary nerve, it damages the axillary nerve, and this leads to some consequences. So once again I am showing you the full picture. So you can see the subdeltoid bursa, subacromial bursa, and some tendinosus bursa of subscapularis, and here it is the subcoracoid bursa, and here it is the coracoclavicular bursa between the clavicular bone and the coracoid process. So you can see the ligament, coracocromial ligament, and another thing, coracohumeral ligament. Not only about the coracohumeral ligament, about all the ligaments of the shoulder joint, I would like to mention what is that. Is all those things lies within the rotator cuff. So rotator cuff is nothing but it is a musculotendinosus insertion of four muscles, namely infraspinatus, tendon of infraspinatus, tendon of supraspinatus, and tendon of teres minor muscle. It is not shown here, and also the tendon of subscapularis. All those four tendons of these muscles form the rotator cuff. All the ligaments of the shoulder joint lies within the rotator cuff except the coracoacromial ligament. And that's all about the ligaments of the shoulder joint. Hope you liked this video. Subscribe my channel and stay in touch. Thank you.